Hello everyone, today is 24th of September, now it's about 10:30 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Ugledar and this is my first update for a day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today I will publish on YouTube and Rumble pages new episode of headlines, short summary of their news that I will talk about in a bit more detail on my Patreon and Boosty pages in a second daily update. And yesterday I published a new episode of headlines after long pause, and many members of our community like that program. So therefore, I have incentive to continue with this addition, with these short programs. And of course, as I said, from Monday to Friday, I will definitely try to have a second updates on my Patreon page, and I hope it will help me to generate additional interest among our bigger community to join our Patreon community, because that would be great support, of course, of my work and this small media project of mine. Link, if you are interested, are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And it's not just second updates, dear friends, but many other videos that I have, extra content that I have on Patreon. So hopefully you will like it. So yes, that's been said. Let's talk about news now. And first of all, short summary of the situation on Ukrainian battlefield. And there are very, very significant developments that are happening, especially on South Donetsk sector of the front line, because after significant progress of the Russian armed forces on their western and northeastern sides of Ugledar, as a result of which this town become in operational settlement, now we are receiving reports that first or forward units of the Russian armed forces entered Ugledar itself and established control over their several streets on southern eastern outskirts of this town. Huge progress, of course. I was reporting about situation in Ugledar direction, and my understanding was that Kiev regime formations will most likely start withdrawing from this town to avoid their full encirclement, but I didn't expect this rapid advance of Russian armed forces. I was giving to it like another 2 weeks or maybe a bit more, but no, already now we are receiving reports that Russian troops entered their Ugledar. I guess due to extremely difficult situation of the Kiev regime's garrison in this town, even if Zelensky and his associates will decide to sacrifice entire garrison and will not give them an order to withdraw, most likely many units of the Kiev regime's armed forces will withdraw without any authorization to basically save the lives. And I also expect a significant number of Kiev regime's troops to just lay down arms and surrender in Ugledar and on flanks of Ugledar. Process is already underway, and yesterday I reported in my second update, and I mentioned this also, I believe, in headlines, that about 20 military personnel of Kiev regime's formations on Ugledar direction surrendered, laid down arms and surrendered, majority of them from 58th Brigade of the Kiev regime. So huge progress, by the way, huge progress of the Russian armed forces in Ugledar direction. Difficult to say how long it will take before this town is fully liberated and their surrounding areas, but if we take in account this rapid progress of the Russian armed forces, then probably they will manage to finalize the operation and liberate these areas possibly before end of September, or maybe even earlier, maybe before end of this week even, because progress is really very fast. And also, dear friends, we have an update on Pokrovsk sector. Russian troops, according to many reports that we are receiving now, established full control over the Zelensky settlement on southern flank of Pokrovsk sector. Russian troops advancing towards Zaryana settlement and also towards Alexandropol and Garnyak. Reports are that several blocks of Garnyak already are under Russian control, and most likely after Zelensky первая will be, clearing operation will be finished in Zelensky II, Russian troops probably will start conducting offensive operations towards Zaryana and Gornyaka from eastern side with even more force, and well, expectations are that it will not take too long before Russian troops will manage to liberate these settlements. And then, of course, Kurachovka settlement, of course, which is playing a crucial logistical role right now on this sector, on this southern flank of the Pokrovsk sector. Also, Russian troops further advanced on the southern flank of Selidovo settlement. Russian troops established control over this Terikon, not far away from mine. And right now, if we zoom out, you can see that from forward positions of the Russian troops on the southern side and forward positions of the northern side, I mean, if you take a look at it, it is becoming clear that Selidovo is in partial encirclement at least. In relatively short time, probably we will see a significant increase of the pressure on the Kyiv regime's garrison in Selidovo also. And this is when it comes to short summary of the situation on the front line. Of course, there are some changes on other sectors of the front line. Also, Russian troops increasing pressure on Kyiv regime's formations in Toretsk direction, where basically Kyiv regime's defense lines are collapsing. Also, Russian troops are, of course, further increasing pressure in Chisov Yar direction, in Seversk direction, Kupiansk direction. Russian troops continue counter-terrorist operation in Kursk salient area, but major developments, of course, are happening right now on South Donetsk and Donetsk sectors in Ugledar and Pokrovsk directions. That's been said. Let's go through some additional news now. And TASS news agency reporting about statements of head of Major General of the Russian Armed Forces, head of Ahmad Special Forces, Abdialaudinov, who stated that Ahmad Special Forces basically managed to break through to encircle the Russian formations in Kursk salient. This formation was fighting in basically full encirclement for more than a month, and they did not surrender. They dealt significant damage to invading forces of their Kyiv regime, and Ahmad Special Forces for the last couple of days were trying to clear the path towards Russian troops and evacuate personnel, Russian armed forces personnel that was encircled, majority of whom, by the way, was wounded and were hospitalized. But despite this difficult situation, Russian fighters were continuing fight and did not lay down arms or surrender, which definitely shows the morale of Russian troops. Even in full encirclement, Russian troops in there, I believe this was in Kazachia Loknya area. Despite full encirclement, Russian troops were continuing fighting, and they emerged victorious. And I believe after some medical treatment, many of the fighters will go back to their units and join this counter-terrorist operation. Or if Kursk salient is if counter-terrorist operation is finished at the time in the Kursk salient, and I believe just give it another couple of weeks and most likely Kursk salient will be completely liberated from invading forces, then of course these heroes basically will join their units to continue their fight against Nazis and the terrorists in zone of special military operation. Let's continue. And Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that this illegitimate leader of the Kyiv regime, Zelensky, stated during his interview with ABC News, and he is in US, by the way, right now. So he went to one manufacturing plant that produces shells, including for Kyiv regime. He made some crazy statements there. He also went to some other places, received some awards. He was treated like a kind of, I don't know, rock star, because U.S. leadership bet big on this criminal, on this actor. A poor quality actor, by the way. Let's be real. He was never a great actor, but what you gonna say? I mean, he's acting as if he is really a president for quite a while now, and unfortunately, many people in the West really believe in his acting and start taking him seriously, which is, I mean, I cannot understand how that's even possible. But anyways, this poor quality actor went to ABC News and stated that the military phase of the conflict in Ukraine will end in sooner than many people are expecting. I don't know on what his statements are based. Maybe he and his Western masters made up their minds and are ready now to capitulate. In that case, this conflict can end even today. But I have some doubts that this is the case. Most likely, Zelensky not even know what he's talking about. That's all. He just said some random stuff that he cannot follow up, right? In upcoming days, on 26th of September, I believe he will have a meeting with the so-called president of US. And I'm saying so-called because who will ever believe that Biden is really making any decisions as a president of US? He barely can understand who the hell he is looking at when he is looking at the mirror, right? So there is no way he is involved in any decision-making process. But formally, he is a president, so he will meet with Zelensky. Probably he will have a paper that says this drug addict is the criminal that we appointed as a president of Ukraine. His name is Zelensky. So Biden will read some papers, probably make some statements. Zelensky plans to introduce to Biden his winning plan or something that we don't really care in Russia. Honestly, we just don't care about anything that comes out from Zelensky or Kyiv regime or their Western masters. I mean, it all. But their media operation will follow through anyways, and some statements will be made, and maybe Biden and his associates among the leadership of the collective West will announce authorization of the long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. Anything is possible. Unfortunately, me personally have no doubts that before end of September, probably we will hear statements from officials in the West that they authorize long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. Formally, they will say that they give this authorization to Kyiv regime, but Moscow's position is very clear on that. Any such strikes will be received by Moscow as a direct attack of NATO member states on Russia, and Moscow's reaction will be based according to this assumption. And the only question for me personally that is relevant right now is how Moscow will react. Unfortunately, we don't really have foundations to believe that cool heads will prevail in the collective West, and they will not escalate to this level with the long-range strikes. And therefore, only question remains how Moscow will react on these strikes. But Zelensky, by the way, I mean, just look at the headlines. Украина находится на пороге мира, stated Zelensky, which means Ukraine is on edge of peace. And he went to say that this conflict will end sooner than many people believed. As I said, if they will capitulate, if Kyiv regime and its Western masters will capitulate right now, then this conflict will end right now. Otherwise, this conflict will continue until Western ruling class will capitulate. That's it. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, in UK, by the way, statements were made that they are not planning to train Kiev regime's forces inside their Kiev-controlled territory. Let's translate this page and read it. So, United Kingdom and other Western countries do not consider it necessary to train Ukrainian military personnel directly on the territory of Ukraine. This was stated by the Minister of Defense of the United Kingdom, John Haley, speaking at an event organized by the Policy Exchange Analytical Center on the sidelines of the Labour Party Congress in Liverpool. So, okay, interesting statements. In one hand, the Foreign Minister of UK calling for further escalation with Russia, including with long-range strikes, direct long-range strikes of NATO against Russia. On the other hand, we have this information that UK and other Western states have no plans to train Kiev regime's formations in Ukraine, which means that they did not yet made up mind about sending their forces into Kiev-controlled territory yet. But I believe, dear friends, and you know my take on the situation, once this conflict will end, Ukraine will be divided, and western parts of Ukraine most likely will become under control of NATO, which means that eventually at some point before this conflict will end, NATO will send its troops into these western parts of Ukraine that eventually will be claimed most likely by Poland, Hungary and Romania, because those territories used to be parts of these countries in 20th century. In case of Poland and Romania before Second World War, in case of Hungary before First World War. But rest of the Ukraine, that's a whole different story. Rest of the Ukraine, I believe, rest of the territory of this former Soviet Republic under the name of Ukraine will be controlled directly or indirectly by Russia. Only question I have is about Kiev and surrounding areas. If it was up to me, I will liberate Kiev also, obviously, but it is theoretically definitely a possibility that Kiev and surrounding areas will maintain status of the state, quasi-state on the political map, but rest of the territory for sure will be liberated by Russian forces, and eventually, once referendums will take place there, these historically Russian regions will, of course, join Mother Russia. This is inevitable. This is just inevitable process. RIA Novosti is reporting that in US a statement was made about Ukraine and the Middle East, and well, voice of reason from US, by the way, Colonel Douglas McGregor had a conversation with Glenn Deason, and during this conversation he stated that most likely Washington will focus more on Middle East right now due to this recent escalation, significant escalation between Israel and Lebanon, and therefore Kiev regime will struggle to maintain Western attention, which is true, by the way, which is true, obviously, for US political class that is heavily controlled by what is the name, IPAC or something, which is heavily controlled by Israeli lobby. Of course, for them, Israel always comes as a first. Kiev regime is just a toy in hands of Western, this extremely Russophobic Western ruling class and US elites that don't really means nothing. For them, they will sacrifice. They already sacrificed Ukraine and their citizens of Ukraine big time, and that they will continue to do so. But Israel, that's a whole different story. I will argue that probably Israeli secret services are in charge of indirect control of vast majority of politicians in US. You may agree with me or not, but from what I hear, from what I read, Israeli lobby is absolute monster, by the way. It controls, it terrorizes basically political class in US, and people that are in politics, they are just simply afraid to say even a single word that would not be liked by Israeli officials or Israeli lobby, because their career most likely will be totally destroyed after that. So yes, Douglas McGregor is absolutely correct, in this case and in many other cases, by the way. As I said, Douglas McGregor, Scott Ritter, and many others, by the way, many others that are frequent guests on independent alternative media. I mean, they're clearly demonstrating that there are many very decent people in public life of US, and we should not judge about US only based on Biden's administration or some sick individuals in the Congress or Senate. There are many greater people in the public life of US, and the US society, by the way, in general, I believe are absolutely great people. I don't think they see me as an enemy, and I definitely don't see them as an enemy. We don't really want any confrontation. All we want, really, ordinary people, is just to live our lives in peace and security, and have our happiness. You know, that's all, really, right? So we should not take each other as enemies, man. Never. So yes, Douglas McGregor is absolutely correct. Most likely, Zelensky and his criminal associates will be in the spotlights right now before end of General Assembly in New York, a General Assembly of UN. But just give it a week or two, and if situation in the Middle East will continue to escalate, then of course Kyiv regime will go on sidelines, and main attention from the West will be given to Israel. No doubts about that. And when it comes to Middle Eastern situation, we have RT's report that the US sends more troops aimed Israeli strike on Lebanon. So US is deploying a small number of additional troops to the Middle East after Israel launched a large-scale military operation against Lebanon, described as the deadliest since the 2006 Israeli-Hezbollah war. There are reports that US also sent additional aircraft carrier strike group towards Eastern Mediterranean, and my take on Israeli-Hezbollah conflict in Middle East in general. I believe Western ruling class wants to provoke regional war in the Middle East to disrupt navigation in Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, so that China will lose its major energy sources. China will lose access to the Middle Eastern energy, basically, in that case. So that's why I believe Western ruling class is pushing Israeli leadership or stimulating Israeli leadership to further escalate in the region, and we are seeing now that escalation is step by step shifting from the Gaza Strip towards Lebanon, and large-scale strikes are happening. Hezbollah is responding to Israeli strikes, and on daily basis, unfortunately, casualty numbers are increasing. Latest reports that I see are that as a result of Israeli strike, over 400 civilians were already killed in Lebanon, and unfortunately, there is no sign. There is no de-escalation in sights right now. I'm afraid the situation will only get worse, and at some point, Israel and Western ruling class will probably try to provoke Iran on action, and if Iran will get engaged in directly in hostilities, then that's a regional war, one may say, and in that case, unfortunately, Western ruling class will manage to achieve their goal. They will disrupt navigation in Persian Gulf through Hormuz Strait. They will cut China from oil resources. And by the way, if that's what is to happen, then world should embrace itself for some major energy crisis and major hike in prices on everything basically worldwide, because Middle East, of course, is a major energy supplier for this world, not just for China, but for the world. And if shipment of oil and LNG from Persian Gulf is disrupted, then no other countries, no other oil and LNG producer countries worldwide can compensate for such volume, at least in the short terms. It's just technically impossible. But Western ruling class don't really care about it. All they want is to somehow deal some damage to China, and that's why they are escalating in the Middle East. And well, this is yesterday's report, by the way, of RIA Novosti about casualties among civilians in Lebanon as a result of Israeli strikes. Yesterday, it was known about 274 death casualties as a result of the strikes, but this morning I saw reports that casualty number is over 400. And unfortunately, as I said, the escalation is not even in sights. Both Israeli military and political leadership and Hezbollah are making statements that they will continue hostilities. RT is also reporting that hot mic exposes Biden on China. So let's go through this news. US President Joe Biden has been caught on a hot mic claiming that China is testing Washington and its allies in the Pacific during their meeting with the leaders of Japan, India, and Australia on Sunday. The remark came at the meeting in Biden's hometown, Wilmington, Delaware, with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese or something. The summit of the informal quota grouping comprising Australia, India, Japan, and the US focused on strengthening cooperation between its members. After the leaders delivered their opening remarks before the press, the outgoing US president comments were caught on hot mic as he claimed that Chinese President Xi Jinping is looking to buy himself some diplomatic space, in my view, to aggressively pursue Chinese interests. China continues to behave aggressively, testing us all across the region, and it's true that in the South and in South China Sea, the East China Sea, South China, South Asia, and the Taiwan Strait, Biden was heard saying as reporters were leaving their venue in what was supposed to be behind the closed doors. Comment. Okay, there are confrontation definitely between China and the US for dominance in the Indo-Pacific region. Well, if one may say, no, China is in this region, and it is understandable that it wants to have good positions in a region, then US is ocean away, right? Ocean away. And I don't really think it's US business, by the way, what is happening in the Pacifics. I truly don't. And in one hand, I don't want to see China becoming an exclusive dominant force. But in other hand, you know what? Let us, countries that are in the Pacific region, and Russia is a part of it, of course. Russian Far East is basically can be seen as a region of Pacific, right? So let us deal with the issues that we are facing or might face in the future. I believe Russia and India cooperation between Russia and India, between Russia and Indonesia, and cooperation between Russia and Jakarta, also increasing significantly between Moscow and Jakarta. Well, this and many other countries, and these bilateral cooperations will, I believe, will create enough safe place, in good enough conditions, so that all countries will prosper and there will be no one dominant force. We have strength to deal with any issue that we might face in the region, right? We don't really need US to get involved. Let's be clear on that. You know, but no one asking us, isn't it? No one is asking us. Of course, Western ruling class sees China as a major threat to its dominance, although they are losing dominance, by the way, even without China, right? Western ruling class lost any respect, Western ruling class lost any legitimacy, and their puppet governments, by the way, in our collective West, they don't really are legit governments, by the way. At least I don't see them as legit ones. And I believe majority of the people worldwide understand perfectly well that this is our puppets, by the way. This is our puppets of the true rulers of the West. So, you know, and that's why, by the way, because of this many reasons, including questions about legitimacy of their governments in the West, questions about how democratic this Western world really is. Because questions about who is the true decision maker. I mean, take a look at the US, by the way. I really struggle to understand how anybody can believe that Biden was making any decisions. And if he's not, then who was? I mean, question is, who was then, right? Definitely not someone to whom votes were given by US citizens. Isn't it? It's just that simple. Which means that US so-called democracy is definitely in question. Who the hell is making decisions there? Because Biden barely understands who he is right now. Isn't it? So, I mean, even without China, by the way, and even without, this global south or BRICS or emerging multipolar world, the Western ruling class is in dark place already and in big trouble. And same goes for collective West in general. Prosperity, one should understand that prosperity of the collective West was based on basically not just dominance over the world, but because they were robbing countries left and right, by the way. They were forcing governments worldwide to agree on deals with the Western companies that was not really profitable for these countries, in a way that those deals were profitable for Western companies, right? But things are changing now. If some 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 80 years ago, these countries worldwide did not really have their opportunity to defend their national interests in a way that they would like it, they have it now. They have this opportunity now. They can cooperate with the BRICS, right? They don't need investments from the West. BRICS can invest, right? So that's what is happening. World is changing, and world is changing very rapidly. And if Western ruling class will not adapt to this new reality, if they will continue to see the world as their own property, and if they will continue on this struggle to maintain whatever influence they used to have, or to regain whatever influence they used to have, they will end badly. They will end up even in more difficult situation, and unfortunately, because they are in strong control of the collective West countries, those countries will also suffer as a result of these inadequate policies of their Western ruling class and their puppets in their governments of the collective West. I hope I'm clear on explanation of my view of the big picture, but probably vast majority of our community will agree with this. I mean, world is changing rapidly, and if Western world will struggle to adjust, struggle to join this emerging multipolar world, they will find themselves isolated. And how long they're gonna last, dear friends? Because we are talking about like some 20% on one side of their humanity and 80% on other side. I don't want this divide to happen But it is happening, and until Western ruling class will be removed and replaced by adequate people, until Western elites will start behaving adequately, this process, I mean, world to get divided in two blocks seems unstoppable. And even World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, these Western controlled institutions, are openly talking about these risks that the world is getting closer and closer to divide into two blocks, Western bloc and the rest of the world. It is what it is. And dear friends, when it comes to this particular news, I don't care about Japan, obviously. I don't really care about Australia that much. I will never understand why Australia, or New Zealand for that matter, get involved in this sanctions war against Russia. What we ever did bad to each of them, I mean, to Australia or to New Zealand. Majority of Australians or New Zealanders probably would not find Russia on the map, for God's sake, you know. And the people in Australia and New Zealand have no issues with the sanctioning Russia and this sanctions war and with this Russophobia. What the hell, man? What the hell? This is wrong, man. But you know, it's their business. Okay, they want to be hostile. I mean, what can I do about it? But India, a whole different story, by the way. I have a very warm attitude towards India. Russia sees India, historically speaking, as a strategical partner, obviously. And therefore, I really don't like when India is getting engaged with these dodgy people from these criminals, basically, from leadership of Japan, US, or Australia. It's not necessary for India. I mean, it's clearly not necessary. India can be safe and secure by maintaining strategical level of relationships with their regional countries, including Russia, and never China will pose any danger for India, as long as relationships between India and regional countries, especially Russia, are on the top level. Right? Just take a look at the map, by the way, and it will become clear why am I talking about this. India is on southern side of China, Russia is on northern side. As long as New Delhi and Moscow are like brothers, you know, Beijing, even if tomorrow some changes will happen in Chinese leadership and new leadership will want to behave any differently, you know, they will realize that their situation is here such that Beijing have to act as a friend, otherwise, you know, something may happen. So India is secure, and you know, of course, Indians know perfectly well that it was US-led military coalition that almost destroyed India, by the way, in 71, right? If not Moscow's decision to send its fleet to stop this invading force of you know, West, basically, there would be no India right now on the political map. So New Delhi should choose carefully its friends, man. And US is definitely not a friend of India, and the UK is definitely not a friend of India. That's for sure, and definitely not Japan. By the way, Japanese don't care about anybody. They don't see. I mean, they have very specific culture. By the way, I think racism and Nazism in Japan is kind of legalized still until now. But I never been there. I can, you know, my judgment based on videos and what I read about Japan. But as far as I understand, they have lack of respect for anybody, even in the Pacifics. By the way, they don't respect Koreans. They don't respect Chinese. They don't respect anybody, unfortunately. And I have no respect for Japan for that, and for many other reasons. I just don't like Japan, man, in general. So, especially because of the policies of Japan, and Whenever talk is about Japan, I always remember what Japanese did during the Second World War. What atrocities, man. Even Nazi Germans did not do such atrocities, man. Even just check it, by the way. What Japanese did to Chinese and Koreans and all the other occupied people is just horrendous. And they never apologize, you know. German leadership had enough guts, after all, to apologize for the crimes that was committed by, you know, Nazi Germany. But Japan, you know, they should apologize every other week, but they did not. And I don't like that. And they want to be enemies of Russia, and I don't like enemies of Russia, obviously. Anyways, let's continue. Too much philosophy here. Too much philosophical stuff. Das news agency is reporting, and I guess I will end this. Oh, no. I'm gonna share with you this information that Indonesia, by the way, wants to join BRICS, which is a great deal. Indonesia is, of course, a huge country, by the way, huge archipelago. And if Indonesia will join BRICS, just look at how huge Indonesia is, by the way, from here up to sorry. That's Indonesia, by the way. Yeah. So this archipelago, by the way, is Indonesia. Jakarta is capital, of course, and well, it's gonna be a huge deal, by the way. It's a most populated Muslim country in the world. Many people may don't know, but Indonesia is the most populated country in a Muslim world. And of course, it will be a great deal if Indonesia will join BRICS 100%. And well, once BRICS will start expanding again, accepting new members, I guess Indonesia will be one of the first who will join, as it should. And I hope Cuba will be among them also, by the way, because Cuba needs some help. Cuban people, by the way, definitely needs all the supports that they can get from worldwide. After all, Cubans are under illegal US and the Western sanctions for how many decades now, isn't it? And finally, I will give you this news, dear friends, that Durov stated that Telegram will be able to share IP addresses and the phone numbers at the request of security services, IP addresses and telephone numbers of their users that will break rules of their Telegram. And well, many people didn't like this reporter. Obviously, there was a statement that most likely Durov will cave in, and he did, seems like. And now, after these statements, I guess one may assume that Western secret services have full access to Telegram. Unfortunately, I mean, I may be wrong in this assessment, but Durov himself is saying that whenever there is any request from law enforcement or agencies or secret services or whatever, Telegram will be able to share IP address and phone number of whomever these security services are interested in. Okay, if they are, if we had any guarantees that they will only have an interest towards true criminals, that's a whole different story. But we all know how much these social platforms were abused by Western secret services, isn't it? To block certain narratives and to promote others. And Twitter, before Elon Musk brought this platform, was a prime example of that, isn't it? Conservative opinions were suppressed immensely, traditionalist opinions, and opinions of or narratives of this crazy woke mob was pushed tremendously, right? And there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of bots were created, and these bots were, you know, used to put some likes and to increase view numbers of the Saturn pages, Saturn groups, Saturn narratives, to promote Saturn narratives, and in other cases, exactly opposite was done. Many groups of conservative, traditionalist ideas were suppressed. So we know, and Facebook is exactly the same right now, isn't it? On Facebook, you can get blocked if you will say that there is only a man and a woman. That's it. For that, most likely you will get blocked on Facebook. So unfortunately, it is possibility that after gaining access to Telegram, probably we will see something similar happening here also. I hope I'm wrong on that, but I mean, Durov himself is saying that Telegram will share IP and phone numbers of the users that will broker, that security services will demand their information about, and will broker some rules of Telegram. And this formalization is such that can be used in any case. US Secret Services can say, what, we know there is a account of, I don't know, some public figure in US, let's say Scott Ritter, for example, give us his access to his page now. And what Durov gonna do? It's a security service that is demanding access to page. He gonna refuse? He could not if he is already in a deal with them. So it is what it is, man. Probably Telegram will undergo some significant changes as a result of these recent developments, and it's all because of this Durov, man. He is just too stupid, really. He's just too stupid. He may have some knowledge in some IT stuff, but as an intellectual, he is just too stupid. He went to France while knowing that there was a criminal case against him. Really? Or maybe he did this just to, justify his cooperation with their Western Secret Services that he already probably started before even he was arrested. Something dodgy is happening there, man, and I don't trust Durov. After these statements, everything that happened before seems in a different shades now, and I have some questions about this personality. But anyways, it's his platform, by the way. He can do whatever he wants, and we as customers of Telegram or users of Telegram, it's up to us to decide when this platform will become non-usable. Because, for example, me, I don't use Facebook right now. I don't use what other this platform is that Meta has. Instagram or something, isn't it? I don't use those because I used to be quite active before, but on Facebook. But now I just don't care, man. Maybe sometimes, like once in a month, I go there and publish some music video, and that's it. Okay, dear friends. Okay, this is it for now. Relatively long update, but hopefully you will find it interesting, informative, useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. Any topic will do to at least try and deal with the algorithm to reach wider audience. And if you can, for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channel with your friends in real life or on internet, on any of the platforms that you are actively using. And finally, if you like my work, if you like my channels, if you think we deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal or Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day, and see you later in headlines. Bye for now. In headlines and in second updates, by the way. Headlines will be on YouTube and Rumble. Second update on my Patreon and Boosty pages. So see you there.